Alex Pereira versus Bruno Silva takes place this weekend on the main card of UFC Vegas 50, Santos versus Ankalaev, and I can't wait for this middleweight bout between two surging Brazilian contenders. Alex Pereira, of course, former kickboxing world champion, the guy who beat Israel Adesanya twice, arguably once, but one of them was by very, very brutal knockout. The second one, the one everyone remembers, a very great performance from him there, and he now is focusing his attention on the MMA world. He's joined the UFC, had an amazing debut against Andreas Michailidis, which, by the way, I broke down on my second channel, which will be the top comments that I have pinned. I have a second channel now, and I broke down his debut fight against Andreas Michailidis, where he got a brutal flying knee KO in the second round in a series I'm calling UFC Debut Review. So go and check out the other channel. I haven't really spoken about it in my videos on this channel yet, so it's in the link in the description. It should be. It's the top comment. Either way, let's get on to it. Alex Pereira versus Bruno Silva, a streaking Brazilian contender himself, and I'm actually really looking forward to Bruno Silva returning to the octagon, because this guy's had quite a schedule. He joined the UFC at 31 years of age, and he realized to himself, you know what, I'm a little bit older. I need to get to work if I'm going to rise towards the top of this division and actually have a chance to have some kind of title reign in my perfect world. And he has been very, very active. I believe his first fight was in June of 2021. He had a good performance there against Wellington Turman, got a first round KO. Then he took on Andrew Sanchez, got a great performance there against Andrew Sanchez with, I believe, a third round TKO to body shots. It was a very good performance by Bruno Silva. Really enjoyed that fight. He was getting out grappled early on, but showed that he has resilience, good takedown defense, stayed patient, worked his way back up to his feet, eventually beating up a gassed out Andrew Sanchez in the third round. And then recently against Jordan Wright on a pay-per-view card of UFC 269, he had a great performance there, and this was all within the space of June 2021. He destroys Wellington Turman in the first round, who's currently coming off a win over Misha Serkinov. So it's not as bad of a win as it would have seemed, because Wellington Turman's doing pretty good recently. I believe he's on a 2-fight win streak or something like that. Then he beat Andrew Sanchez in October. Then he immediately turned back around in December after that last fight against Sanchez to beat Jordan Wright with a great KO in the first round there. And he turned around immediately again for March against Alex Pereira. I mean, I really like Bruno Silva. He's a great contender, always brings it in a fight as well. He's a very, very game fighter, does not shy away from a firefight whatsoever, and that makes this, in my opinion, a great fight for Alex Pereira. He's got a guy who's willing to trade on the feet with big power, and it's Alex Pereira. You know what I'm saying? Bruno Silva is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That does get thrown around quite a bit, I'll be honest with you. There are a lot of black belts in Jiu-Jitsu that maybe aren't quite great Jiu-Jitsu guys. You know, I think we saw Priscilla Cachoeira get an upgrade in belt after trading on the feet like a maniac and losing against Yeon Kim a couple of weeks ago. So sometimes these belts in Jiu-Jitsu are handed out for very interesting reasons, but either way, he's got that credential in his back pocket. I just don't believe he's going to have to, I don't think he's going to be able to enforce it, because so far we haven't seen him use that in his game. I know he probably does have a bit of that in his game, but I have not seen it in his career so far. Sure, he's got some takedowns on the regional scene, but so far in the UFC, no takedowns, doesn't even go for them. I think he failed a couple of them actually against Wellington Turman. Other than that, Turman would fail takedowns on him, and he would sort of show off good takedown defense, end up on top, eventually getting a KO in the first round with ground and pound. But he's got a lot of power, so if he does end up on top of Alex Pereira here, in a dominant position in round one, it's probably going to be a quick night for Alex Pereira. I don't care how good his chin is. However, Alex Pereira in his debut, I broke it down on my second channel. He showed great patience on the ground, although he did get taken down in the first place by Andreas Michailidis, who I would say is also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, by the way. I would say has a similar level of offensive grappling threats than a Bruno Silva. I think he's very similar in that way. We don't really know too much about their grappling, but they've got credential, and they can use it here and there in fights whenever they so please. I think they're very similar in that way, in terms of build, in terms of grappling level as well. And I think that we saw Alex Pereira very patient on the ground, fight for wrist control, stuff a takedown at the second waypoint or the midway point of the first round. There was another takedown that Andreas Michailidis went for that he defended quite well, separated the hands, found underhooks against the cage. He's doing the very basic, essential things that you need to see someone do in order to trust them to defend some takedowns. And plus, even if he doesn't quite have the level of grappling of a Bruno Silva, his physicality, I believe, is going to be a big difference here. He's 6'3", but I reckon he's taller than that unless Glover Teixeira is about 5'11", because I saw a picture of him and Glover Teixeira next to each other. This guy, I thought it was like Glover and the fucking heavyweight champ taking a picture together. Like, this guy is built ridiculously massively for the middleweight division. It's really quite weird. Like, he's genuinely about 6'4", it would seem, if we're going off of his difference in height to Glover Teixeira, at least. He's like 6'4". He's got a 79-inch reach or something like that. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage here over Bruno Silva. He's a massive guy, and he's not like skinny. Like, Israel Adesanya isn't a skinny guy anyway. Real life skinny people are skinny people. UFC level skinny people are still quite built. Like, they've still got biceps and chest muscles and abs and stuff like that. Like, skinny people are just fucking skin and bone in real life, you know, like that fucking long neck guy on Instagram a while ago. But either way, he's thick. He's built for that division. He's got broad shoulders. He's got, like, not skinny legs by any means. Like, he's just like a tank of a guy, but he's also really tall and rangy. And I think that physicality is going to help him, especially in the clinch, whenever Bruno Silva maybe does go for a takedown. It just gives you an advantage to be higher up than your opponent, because if you have underhooks, they're on their tiptoes, and if, like, that's just not a really effective way to grapple if you're balancing around on your tiptoes. We saw this against Darren Till and Kelvin Gastelum, or we saw Darren Till use this against Kelvin Gastelum. Whenever they would meet in the clinch, Till would just immediately look for underhooks, and Gastelum would be up on his tiptoes. Whittaker did this to Gastelum as well, and in fact, a few people have done this to Gastelum throughout his career, so maybe this is something Nassourdine Imavov should be looking out for. Get double underhooks against a shorter guy. He can't chuck you around whilst he's balancing on his tiptoes, you know what I mean? So I think the physicality and the experience that he's shown so far is going to be enough to keep this fight on the feet unless there's some kind of mistake. So I don't see Bruno Silva ragdolling him out there. Plus, Bruno Silva likes a firefight, man. I think he's going to go out there and at least try and earn some respect on the feet early. And I think that's going to lead to a first-round KO in the favor of Alex Pereira with a check hook, as Bruno Silva maybe charges in with a combination to try and push him up against the cage. I can see Alex Pereira fading away, landing a left hook counter, his signature left hook, and putting away Bruno Silva in the first round. I reckon he gets this one done. Not to mention, I mentioned it before, so to mention, not to mention, Glover Teixeira is his training partner, which is really good. Light heavyweight champ. Best grappler maybe this side, middleweight and light heavyweight combined. Like, he's a dominant grappler, and he's got a great training partner in Alex Pereira for him, and Alex Pereira has a great training partner in Glover Teixeira for him. A shorter guy, a stockier guy that's going to be looking to take him down. Perfect training partner for him, and by the way, he's the light heavyweight world champion. And also for Bruno Silva, who's going to be taking on guys, if he remains champion, like Yuri Prohaska, Magomed Ankalaev, Alexander Rakic, and stuff like that. He's got himself a long, rangy kickboxer. And by the way, the kickboxing former world champion kickboxer. So I think it's a great pairing between the pair of them. And I think it's going to go far in both of their careers to stick together, train with each other. And I think Alex Pereira, of course, he's only just recently devoted himself to the game. So I think from the last fight until now, this is the massive improvement we're going to see. People forget about this, man. Only a couple of months before his actual UFC debut, this guy was defending in a rematch where there was a controversial decision and he ended up losing. He was defending his kickboxing world championship. Couple of months before his UFC debut. This is not a guy who isolated the kickboxing game completely and then did like 5 hard years of MMA and built up a resume on the regional scene and then came over to the UFC after he'd been focused for 5 years in a row, like Israel Adesanya. This is a guy who was like dipping in and out. Like, oh, I'll win that, secure my spot in the UFC, right back to defend my kickboxing title, right back to the UFC. Like, now we're going to see a guy who doesn't give a fuck about kickboxing world titles anymore. He's given that up completely. This is the first time we're going to see Alex Pereira, for a few months at a time, be entirely dedicated towards improving his MMA, because now he's full force focused on becoming a UFC world champion, I would assume, and I guess maybe getting another fight with Israel Adesanya in a big money fight that would be a great storyline. But I'm really looking forward to this contest, man. We're going to see the best of Bruno Silva. Really looking forward to it. And also, people like, I think he's going to have success because where Adesanya lacks like the physical attributes that maybe Alex Pereira has, even though Adesanya's a long and rangy guy himself, it just, you know, Alex Pereira is built differently to Israel Adesanya in terms of like a strength and like a physicality type of build. So I feel like he's got an advantage there. but he doesn't quite have the experience. So there is a fear that maybe he does make a mistake in the takedown defense. Bruno Silva completely exposes him and just destroys him on the ground. There is always that threat. And there's also a threat that he gets taken down, beaten up a little bit, works his way back up, and then now he's on the feet worrying about the takedown non-stop, and you see Bruno Silva catch him on the chin. I don't think that's going to happen, but these things are entirely possible in the world of MMA, as we know, because he's so inexperienced. I believe he's now, 4-1 in his career overall, 4-1. Will be 5-1 after this one, and then maybe he'll be looking at Brad Tavares's, this guy's going to have to overperform a lot of times in his career to make up for a lack of experience. Israel Adesanya had a crazy amount of experience before he even got to the UFC. Off the top of my head, I don't remember quite who he took on, but he took on Melvin Manhoef? Maybe Melvin Gillard? I think Melvin Manhoef, though. I think he fought Melvin Manhoef on a regional fight card. This is long before he even joined the UFC. He was beaten up like veteran UFC, guys who had been cut by the UFC or just veteran MMA fighters in general. I believe he even took on Song Kenan Song, who is a UFC 170-pounder right now, who's signed under the promotion. Adesanya took him on the regional scene. People don't really give credit to Adesanya's regional background before he even got to the UFC. The guy put in a lot of work before he even got here, just in MMA, before he came over to the UFC. So I do worry about Pereira a bit, but I think he's going to have enough to get it done. He seems like a strong guy. He showed good patience on the ground. He did exactly what he needed to do in certain positions on the ground to make sure that he didn't give up any dominant positions, didn't get his back taken. So he knows the basic ideals of takedown defense. This isn't like a Kevin Holland where we're going to, suddenly find out that he doesn't know what an underhook is at one point as soon as he gets to the rankings. This guy is doing things correctly. He's got a great training team around him with Glover Teixeira, and I believe in his power in the early rounds to catch Bruno Silva coming in, because Bruno Silva is a combination puncher. He's got a reach disadvantage, and he throws a lot of straight shots and sort of hooks that aren't entirely closed off. He'll start them and then he'll start looping the hooks way wider, and I think he's just going to get out-distance managed and outranged, and Alex Pereira is going to catch him on a check hook when he's trying to bolt forward with a combination to try and push Pereira up against the cage. And also, he's a bit more of a boxing heavy guy as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see Alex Pereira chewing up his legs early on to set up some of those shots later and make him a bit sloppier when he eventually does go in for some exchanges. My hands have been doing this the whole video. Can you tell I'm excited about Alex Pereira's next fight in the UFC? But again, if Bruno Silva wins, you got a prospect there as well, so this is the best of both worlds. Amazing fight. It's an amazing card in general, and I think the winner of this one is definitely looking at the names like Brad Tavares, who's not allowed his own career, of course. Silly Brad Tavares, stupid bitch, thinking you can have your own career and fun. That's not allowed, not on my watch. Or you could also take on maybe, I don't know, who else is there? I'm not too sure who else there is, but there's also some guys that are just at the bottom of the rankings in the middleweight division. I doubt Weidman's going to draw the Alex Pereira card when he comes back, but maybe he would want to, right? Go out there, take on a guy who maybe doesn't have too much background in the grappling, and maybe Weidman's the guy who exposes him. Maybe that could be an option for Weidman just to get some massive hype back behind him on his return. But I'm looking forward to seeing what happens to the winner of this one. The loser's going to be in a weird position. It would really be sad though if Alex Pereira lost. I'm really rooting for him here, because otherwise he's just a 4-2 bottom feeder that's given up his world title, and now he's fucking how old? I think he's 34. If he gets KO'd and needs 6 months off, what, are we coming back to a 35-year-old 4-2 Alex Pereira fighting bottom feeders again? That would be a really sad derailment of hype. So I'm going to trust in Alex Pereira here. I want him to win. I think he's going to win. And I think that's enough for me to secure the prediction for him to win this one. But Bruno Silva's a good underdog, though. So don't be surprised if there's an upset. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. But before you go, again, the second channel, I'll probably put it right here. I'm probably tickling it right now. That's my second channel. I did a breakdown of Alex Pereira's debut there. I do fight footage breakdowns. It's basically like the Weasels, what really happened, but with a guy who's not coward enough to not show his face. You know what I mean? So it's basically the Weasel with a face and personality. I know you can barely imagine it, but there is such a thing out there, and it's called my second channel right here. So click on it and subscribe and watch it. There's a video about Alex Pereira there right now. Like and subscribe. See you later. Toodle pip.